Today, the world is reminded of a tragedy that many will never forget. Thousands of lives were lost in the September 11th, 2001 attack on American soil. That was 21 years ago, but the work to bring justice to the victims from that day isn't over. An Eau Claire woman who lost her father on 9/11 is determined to keep fighting. She recently moved to the Chippewa Valley from the East Coast, and she's bringing her advocacy work with her. Our own Shannon Hoyt has the story.
I remember talking to my dad probably about 2 nights before September 11th. My dad was not a man of many words. He was quiet, but he was strong and he was a good man. But he never really said, "I love you," that often. And for some reason, we did say "I love you" to one another on that conversation. And that was the last time that I spoke to him.
Angela Mastrulli's father, Joseph, was on the 107th floor of the North Tower in downtown Manhattan. He was called in on his day off.
And my father received a phone call in the middle of the night that there was a problem on the job site in Windows of the World, and he needed to come in. And the type of person that he is, he got his work shoes on and left. I was at a friend's house and I was asleep. And I just kept hearing the phone ring and the answering machine go off, and finally that woke me up, and the message on the answering machine was that I needed to turn on the TV.
When she did, the second plane hit the South Tower of the World Trade Center.
So I then sat there glued in front of the TV watching these 2 towers burning and just hoping that he got out or that he was okay. And then I kept trying to dial his phone, hoping that he would pick up and I would hear his voice. And then the South Tower collapsed and my heart just sank into my stomach.
Angela, who was 17 at the time, says the minutes felt like hours before the second building fell.
And when the North Tower fell, I knew that I lost my dad.
It's a story like thousands of others told across the nation, one of heartbreak and devastation.
It took me a long time to put the bags down from the emotional scarring, and I don't think it ever fully goes away. But when I finally did, I realized that there was a lot of inequities that were being done to the widows and children of 9/11. And I just felt like this was my calling to go and fight for this.
Her heartbreak turned to advocacy, putting others before herself, just like her father did.
In 2016, we started our efforts to allow the widows and children to participate in the US VSST Fund, that is the United States Victims of State-Sponsored Terrorism Fund. While extended family members, brothers and sisters and parents were allowed participation into this fund, the most deeply impacted emotionally and the most financially dependent on the victims that day were barred. And that just didn't seem right. It didn't seem like we were being recognized as victims.
In 2019, Angela and other victims of 9/11 successfully passed the Clarification Act to include this barred group. But the work isn't over. A study found over 5,000 widows and children were barred from the fund for years. Now, Angela wants Congress to compensate those victims for the years they couldn't participate.
We need Congress to come together in a bipartisan effort and get this done. There was no distinguishing that day in those buildings who was a Republican or who was a Democrat. They were just Americans who went to work and never came home.
A reality that thousands of widows and children will carry with them for a lifetime.
What drives me is, the pain that they're going through, I go through. We are a united community in the fact that we all suffered the same loss. And if I can stand there where another 9/11 child doesn't have the strength to stand there, I'll stand there for 2 of us. I'll stand there for 3 of us. I'll stand there for 5,000 of us.
Angela and other victims are planning a trip to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday to mark the anniversary of 9/11 with legislators and to lobby for the passage of legislation to fund the back payments to widows and children. Representative Ron Kind is a co-sponsor of that legislation, and you can learn more about Angela's advocacy work and the US VSST fund at WQOW.com.